welcome to this Dreamweaver tutorial. My name is Daniel Walter Scott and I'm a trainer here at Bring Your Own Laptop. What we're going to do in this tutorial is create some div tags. Now in this exercise what we're going to do is create a separate file and create just some simple box projects just so that you can really understand div tags before you start flying into a full website. So if you do want to fly into your full website, jump ahead of this tutorial, but in this one we're going to look at creating some boxes. So we're going to try and create a structure that looks like this. Okay, it's nothing much, but it will help us understand how div tags are created and how you move them around in code. So we've got a red box with a yellow box inside of it with a blue box underneath. So let's look at creating that, and we're going to do it in a separate document, so not in our current Vintage Camper site. We're going to make a new file. Okay, so file new, then go to blank HTML, and then the layout is none. Hit create. Then I'd like you to go to file, save. And let's call this one our red box -demo. So red box -demo. Okay, this is just going to be a temporary file. We're going to throw this away in a second once we've kind of got the understanding of div tags. So the first thing we need to do is make sure there's a CSS sheet created. Now the CSS that we create for these div tags is the exact same ones we do for the fonts. So if you've got a file that's already got a CSS sheet like our index currently does, it's got a one called main.css. If that's true, then you don't have to create a new one. If you're doing this demo with me, we're going to create our own CSS sheet just for this exercise. We're going to do it the exact same way we did the fonts. So over here, we're going to hit the little plus button under sources. We're going to go create new CSS file. Then we're going to give it a name. We're going to call this one red-box and hit OK. If I zoom out now, you'll see I've got my redboxdemo.html. But I've also got this new file called redbox.css. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to create our div tag. So there's two parts to it. We create it in the source code, which is the HTML, which is in here. Then we style it in the CSS, okay, which at the moment has nothing in it. So back to the source code, and I'm going to go to my design view. So with the cursor flashing in anywhere, you can either use your insert panel, which is on the right. It might be tied up with the files panel. Or you can go to insert and down to div. It's totally up to you. Okay, I'm going to use the insert panel. So I'm going to use insert and click on div. If you can't see div, it might be under some different setting here. So make sure you're on common and then click div. All right. Now we'll forget about insert for the moment. We'll look at that in a little bit. We're going to use IDs to style this box. Okay, so we're going to call this one red-box. Now, we've looked at tags in an earlier class, and we've looked at classes in an earlier one just before this one. So classes had, remember, a full stop in front of it to make it a class. IDs have something slightly different. They have hashes in the front of it. Okay, that's what makes an ID. So we don't have to add it here. Dreamweaver is pretty clever and adds it for us. So if I leave redbox there and click OK, you'll see in my HTML, it's created this div tag. Okay, and it's added some placeholder text for us. If I check in the source code, so under source code, code, I've got this thing called div ID redbox. Okay, and then I've got the closing of the div. So there's the opening of the div, okay, named redbox, and there's the closing of it. And everything inside of it, at the moment, is only a bit of placeholder text. Content for ID redbox goes here. This is just placeholder text. You do not need to leave it there. It's just so that there's something on the screen while you're designing. So we've created it in the HTML. Now we need to style it in the CSS, and this is where it's very similar to doing the fonts. I want to make sure over here I've got my CSS selected. I'm going to pick a selector, and it's even defaulted to redbox for me. If it doesn't, okay, you can go through and just type in, remember, hash to identify an ID, and then red-box. Great, I hit enter, I had to hit it twice. And now we're dealing with a slightly different place down here. Earlier when we were doing fonts, we were dealing with the text part. We're going to be dealing with this part here now, the first bit, the layout. That's more applicable to a div tag. It gives us our width, our height, and things like color and those sorts of things. So the width for this one, I've decided, is going to be in pixels. So pixels is how you'd style div tags. unless you start getting into more complicated things like responsive web design, which we will look at a later tutorial. But for the moment, let's take to an absolute size. Okay, it's still very common in web design. So we'll get a width of 400 pixels. Okay, we're going to have a height of pixels at 400. And I'm going to hit enter. I'll zoom out and you'll see I've got now a box that is 400 pixels by 400 pixels. Great. Now I need to play around with the background color. So let's have a look through. You can keep scrolling down until you find it. I know that it's under this one here. Okay, under background. So we've used layout, we've used text before. Now we're going to skip down to background. That just slides down the list. Now in this one, it's the top one that I really want. It's this one that says background color. So click on that and then move your cursor, move the little circle. I'm clicking and dragging till it goes to the red, hit enter. And ta-da, we've got a red box that is 400 pixels by 400 pixels that has a center color of red. Let's check it out in CSS. So in my source code, in my code, I've still got this just this really simple thing called redbox. Okay, this ID called redbox and a closing of the div tag redbox. No sizings, no nothing. But in my CSS, that's all the work gets done. You can see the corresponding name, redbox, has a width and height and a background color. Great, so it's a way of splitting these two apart, and it means that it keeps the code down to nice and small, because what you can do is you can have redbox on every single page. Okay, so you might have redbox as the top box on all your pages, so you've got 100 of them or 1,000 of them. It means that you only have to write redbox once, and the redbox class or the redbox ID styling in here needs to be only written once. Cut that last bit out, that was dumb. Great, so now we've got these this box created. Let's look at building our second box. So the second box is going to be this blue one underneath. So we're going to add a little extra complexity to it. So we're going to go to Insert Div or Insert Div, whichever one you prefer. Now this top one becomes more important. Okay, it says where to insert it. Okay, so at insertion point is going to be wherever my cursor is flashing in my design view. Now that can be tough because it's very hard to get the cursor flashing in the right place every time. So we're going to look at these ones. Before tag, after start of tag, before end of tag, and after tag. Now, if I zoom out a little bit, we've got one option in this one. Okay, so we've got after tag. So what it means is I have the beginning and ending tags. So let me close that and come back at here and go to source view. Here's my beginning of tag, and there's my close of my tag. If I want the blue box to appear after this one, I have to say after red box. Okay. If I want it to be inside the red box, I say after the start of red box. It will start inside this guy here. So let's give that a go. Back to design view. I'm going to go to insert div tag. So at insertion point, I'm going to say after tag, red box. I'd like to insert a new ID of blue hyphen box and click OK. You'll see after red tag finishes, there is the blue box. Let's go to code view. You can see what happens. So there's the red open, there's the red close, and after the close of that tag, which is there, after the red box closes, the blue box starts. So it's right after it. Now what we need to do is go back to design view, and we're going to style this one just like we did the red box. And to do it, we're going to make sure we're in redbox CSS. We are picking a selector. It's defaulted to blue box, but if it doesn't, don't worry, you can just type in, maybe it's got to start with a hash, and we're going to start with blue box, hit enter twice. Okay, I'm going to start with layout. We're going to do a width of this one is going to be pixel width of 600 and a height of pixels 200. Great, so far we've got the shape kind of in there. Now we'll do the background color, which is this little tab here. Background color, I'll pick a blue and move this circle around, clicking and dragging it, and pick something that's blue. Hit enter. Great, so we've got a red box and a blue box. So So the last one we need to do is get that yellow box. Remember this guy? We need to get the yellow box inside the red box. So let's give that a go. So to do that, well, I'm going to insert a div tag. So it doesn't really matter where your cursor is. Okay, just hit insert div tag. Now, not at the insertion point. I wondered if I did before start of red box, okay, before tag red box, it'd end up above the red box. If I wanted it after red box, it would end up where the blue box is. Okay, so I want this one that says after start of red box. So after the starting of it, I would like to put this new one called yellow box. Great, let's click OK. Zoom out. So it's in the right place, okay, but it has no styling yet. But there is my yellow box. Let's have a look at code view. You can see red box opens. Then before it closes, which is there, the yellow box starts and closes. So he is tucked up inside this one. Great. I'll put a couple of returns in just to help you visualize it. Returns don't mean anything in code view. Okay, so you can kind of space things out nicely just to see a little easier. So red box opens, okay, and closes here. Inside of red box is yellow box opens and closes. All right, let's go back to design view and let's style this yellow box. So let's make sure in redbox.css, click on the plus button. It's defaulted to try and styling two of them. I just want to style just the yellow box. And I'd like a width, okay, of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. And I'd like to pick a background color of, let's use yellow. So I'm going to slide this up, the hue slider, and then move into here. Click enter, and fingers crossed, hey, I've got a yellow box inside my red box. Now this text here is purely just placeholder text. I can delete all of that text in there and start adding my own content now. All right, so that's a kind of a basic introduction to creating div tags. Now, let's look at putting that to more practical use by actually building a website with div tags rather than just little boxes. All right, I'll see you in the next tutorial.